Toni Newman, professional innovation catalyst and founder of the Innovation Advantage. Today on Dov Baron's Leadership Show, we are going to talk about how you can deliberately design innovative customer experiences that will drive more customers, more revenue, and more growth in your business. So stay tuned.
Congratulations! You are tuned into Dov Baron's Leadership and Loyalty Show, the #1 podcast for Fortune 500 executives and those who are dedicated to creating a quantum leap in leadership. Your host, Dov Baron, is the founder of FullMontyLeadership.com. He's an executive mentor to leaders like you, a contributing writer for Entrepreneur Magazine, CEO World, and he's been featured on CNN, Fox, CBS, and many other notable sites. Dov Baron is an international business speaker who was named by Inc. magazine as one of the top 100 leadership speakers to hire. Now, over to Dov Baron.
Welcome, dear friends, fans, and fellow aficionados of leadership excellence. I'm your host, Dov Baron, founder of FullMontyLeadership.com, and I'm here to assist you in tapping into your deep greatness so that you can reach that next level of clarity, focus, and purpose and profit in your business, your life, and your leadership. Thank you for joining us on this episode of Dov Baron's Leadership and Loyalty Tips for Executives, part of the Full Monty interview series, where today we're going to look at why being better than your competitor just isn't good enough anymore. If you're a new listener, new viewer, thank you for joining us. Strap yourself in. We're about to go full Monty. And if you're a regular listener, big thank you to you for making us the #1 podcast globally for Fortune 500 listeners. We're also very grateful to Inc.com for citing us as the #1 podcast to listen to make you a better leader. So thank you for sharing the show with everybody you know. We really appreciate it. We need your help in staying relevant. So please get yourself over to iTunes. Rate, review, and subscribe to the show. All right, let's strip it down and dive right in. As a leader, whether you're a CEO, someone in the C-suite, sales leader, entrepreneur, or leader in any capacity, you know that we live in the fast-changing times and that if you don't innovate, you will become irrelevant very quickly. But how in the sea of innovation do you work out the kind of innovation that will make you not only stand out, but make you stand head and shoulders above your industry? Well, stay tuned because you're about to find out. Our guest today on this episode is Toni Newman. Toni Newman is a 5-time award-winning business owner and founder of Innovation Advantage, a company that works with organizations worldwide to design innovation, create a customer experience that drives more customers, more revenue, and more growth in their business. Toni has been speaking and consulting on strategic innovation as a competitive advantage for more than 20 years and is committed to helping her clients develop big ideas that get big results. So ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together. Welcome. Good to have you here.
Thank you very much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Well, we're looking forward to having you on. So, Let's start here. Why isn't being better than your competitor good enough anymore? I mean, like everybody's been brought up on this whole idea. You've got to be better than your competitor, but that's not enough anymore. Tell us why.
Well, let's put it this way. It's enough if you're not already better. Most of our clients are the best of the best.
Right.
They're in highly commoditized industries, and their competition are already getting better every day. Mm-hmm. And the thing is that businesses need to remember that getting better keeps them in the game, and getting different is what they need to get ahead of the game. So I'm not saying businesses don't need to be getting better. I'm just saying that when you're competing with the best of the best, when you're a leader in your industry competing with other leaders in your industry, they've got that figured out. You've got it figured out. They've got it figured out. Your toughest competition has it figured out. The only thing that you can do is figure out what's better than better. And that is to be strategically different than your competition.
So you not only got to be better, you got to be strategically different.
Absolutely.
So we're definitely going to come to that. But first I want to know, how did you manage to do that? How did you become strategically different as a singer in a Paris nightclub?
Well,
because this is something probably most people wouldn't know about you.
Yes. I've been asked that question several times, and I wish there was some great moment of truth behind it. I just happened to have been born that way. I was a lawyer. I went off and I did all kinds of different things, mainly because when a door opened, I walked through it. So people say, you left your job, you left being a lawyer to go work for Club Med, you ran off to Club Med and worked in a nightclub in Paris, all of these things. There was no courage involved. I wasn't frightened. The door opened and I went, that looks like a good opportunity. And I took advantage of the opportunity. Some of them worked, some of them didn't. But throughout all of that, and it wasn't, I guess, until later in my life when I looked back at it, throughout all of that, the one thing that all of those experiences had in common is that I dared to be different. I didn't do what other people were doing. I didn't do it for the reasons that other people were doing it. No. By the same token, I didn't jump off a cliff without a parachute. But if a door opened, I went through it.
It's interesting. I've had this conversation with many people over the years that I don't think that anything is wasted in our experience, and it transforms us if we're paying attention. And I think that, if I was to track your life from the objective, because you're in the subjective, but if I was to track your life, I could see, as anybody would, and I'm sure this is part of what you do with your customers, with your clients, is seeing how, being a lawyer gave you a set of skills that added to being somebody at Club Med, gave you a set of skills, added to being a Paris nightclub singer, added a set of skills that has actually made you where you are, what you do, and why you do it so well today. And that if we pulled any one of those out, you wouldn't have the strategic difference that you're talking about. Is that correct?
It's absolutely correct. And I think it's a great metaphor. Having that life journey is a great metaphor for innovation.
Absolutely.
Because people want the big idea. They want the big idea, they want it now, they want it to work, and they want it to work forever.
Yes.
Well, it doesn't work that way. What you need to do is find the next piece of the puzzle. Yes. What's the next part of your journey as an organization? What's the next skill that you are going to acquire? What's the next chance that you're going to take? And all of those pieces come together. If you look at the greatest innovators in the world, the greatest brands in the world, they've had a bunch of things that didn't work. Mm-hmm. And they've had some great successes. But all of those things have added to the learning and the skills that have allowed them to do what they're doing now. So it's a great metaphor, Dov. You're absolutely right.
So tell us, what is the innovation advantage? What does that actually mean?
Well, you know that most companies talk about competitive advantage. And to get that competitive advantage, most of them are doing the same thing.
Right.
Because we believe that the only way to differentiate yourself in today's crowded economy is to be innovative. And I guess what I should do is quickly give you a definition of innovation. I mean, if you were to look innovation up, I think I did once, and there were like, I don't know, 800 million results on Google or something. But our definition is value-based change that resets expectations. And what I mean by that is that we do something. Yes.
I want to slow down for a minute. Because I want you to say that again, because you and I had a conversation months ago about this, and that every man and his dog, every company in the world, we're all about innovation, but they don't know what it is.
They don't know what it is.
Or it's some little tweak. But that's not innovation in the way that you're talking about. And I want people to really grasp what you just said, because that's really important. Please, again.
So innovation is value-based change that resets expectations.
Value-based change that resets expectations. And it's like that resets expectations. That's very cool. Keep going.
So if you think about it, our customers, regardless of what industry you're in, our customers, our clients have an expectation. This is why better isn't good enough anymore. Mm-hmm. Because our customers, our clients, expect us to be getting better each and every day. If we're not getting better, they're disengaged. But if all we are doing is getting better, we are meeting their expectations, and therefore we're not differentiating ourselves. We are doing what is expected. Oh. So if innovation is about creating value-based change that resets expectations, then there are 3 areas of any business where they need to be innovating, not just improvement, innovation. And that's in how they create value. So don't think of that as any kind of offering, product, services. And this is the one where most organizations and most innovators feel really comfortable. If I were to ask you, Dov, what's the first word that comes to your mind when you think of an innovative offering? What word would come to your mind first?
Technology.
Yeah, absolutely. Technology. Now, there are many other kinds of products and services, but most people nowadays think about technology.
Of course.
But it's much broader than that.
Mm-hmm. You know, but one of the things you said that I want to hone in on is values-based innovation. So
yes,
I mean, and I see this a lot. And just, oh, this is our latest innovation, but who gives a shit? Who cares?
Absolutely.
Is it adding anything to my life as the customer? And if the answer is no, then what you've got is bragging rights on innovation that nobody cares about.
Absolutely.
You know, if you're innovating on a new whip for your horse and buggy, well, good. That's great. Nobody cares.
Nobody cares. And so innovation in this context is about changing your customer's perception of value.
Okay, tell us more about that. That's great.
Yes. So you're changing your customer's perception of value. So for example, in that first circle, if you're creating new products and services or any kind of offering, you absolutely need to be creating something that is so different in the value that it creates or the perception of the value that it creates that you become the gold star. You own the moment.
Right.
Can I give an example?
Please do.
Okay. So there is a mom and pop pizza store in Dubai called Red Tomato Pizza. Now, Red Tomato Pizza makes great pizza. Their pizza's awesome. Everybody loves Red Tomato Pizza. Then you had all of the big chains that were arriving in Dubai. And with the big chains came their value meals and all of the low price point stuff. And Red Tomato Pizza didn't want to make their business about, as they put it, price and toppings.
No.
So here's what they did. They looked at the biggest pain point in the pizza ordering journey. And they discovered that there are 200 languages spoken in Dubai, but everybody loves to order pizza. So put those two things together, Dov, and what do you have? You have a pizza ordering nightmare. An absolute nightmare.
Yeah.
So here's what Red Tomato Pizza did. They created a magnet called the Push for Hunger magnet. Every time you ordered a pizza, you got this magnet in the middle of your pizza. You know, like sometimes there's a little ball of bread maybe in the middle. Well, this was a magnet. When you got the magnet for the first time, what you had to do once was go online, register your regular pizza order, put that magnet on your fridge, and from that moment on, you never had to order again. All you had to do was push on the magnet, and your favorite pizza arrived at your door 30 to 40 minutes later.
Wow.
That is value-based change that reset expectations. Deliveries went up 500%. They got 12,000 mentions on social media. Now, anybody who then needs to pick up a phone and order a pizza, what are they thinking? They're thinking, I should push that button and order from Red Tomato Pizza. That's the kind of thing that I'm talking about.
And that's a great example of changing the expectation. You know, and I love that. I mean, in truth, if we look back over history, not in like, you know, as you said, not in recent technology areas, which is what you just example was an example of technology. But if you look back, the greatest companies are the ones that really the innovation was they reset expectations. They made it like, well, it has to be this way now. This is just the standard.
Yes.
Right? And it makes other things obsolete. I mean, you know, Netflix did it with Blockbuster. It was
Absolutely.
Like, well, if you want to rent a video, you go to the video store. Blockbuster is the best, but there was lots of others. And now there's none.
There's not.
Because it was the reset of the expectation was simply, that's not how we get video anymore. Oh,
yes.
Okay. I love that. It's a great point. Recognizing that what will I as the customer value rather than what you think I will value. And I think this is, and I'm guessing even in the work you do, this is one of the major challenges is what the provider thinks people will value versus what they will value. So for the leaders who are watching, listening to us now, and going, well, I've got this great idea and I think it's going to make a big difference. How do you get them to put that back on the client and say, find out whether it's of value to them?
It's a simple question with a simple answer that many organizations think they do and they don't.
Okay, tell us.
Which is ask. It's that organizations aren't asking the right questions.
Right. So they are asking, but they're asking the wrong questions.
Yes, they're asking the wrong questions. So the question is, what do you value? The question is, what would make a difference in your business? The question is, what's keeping you up at night? The question is anything that is truly focused on the customer's business, the customer's needs, as opposed to what many organizations do. They'll create something and then they'll go to their client base and say, give us your feedback.
Right.
Well, you've already boxed them in. You've already created expectations, and you've already created a perception of value because you've gone to them with something. The trick is, as we did, we just launched a new offering, and before we even thought about what this might look like, we interviewed 10 clients just to find out where the hole was. Right. Find out where the pain point, like the 200 languages, was. So if you ask the questions before, then you create the value that they may not even know is missing, but you definitely know what their pain is.
So that's interesting because I certainly would agree with that and would have even argued for that. But there is side swerves to that. And yes. That is would be an example with Steve Jobs. Yeah. I mean, there was nobody requesting an iPod, you know, and he said, don't ask the market what they want, innovate. So yes. There's that other side, and I think that's part of the challenge is that I think we tend to get a little egoic and think that we maybe are the next Steve Jobs and we know what people want, but we also know that's how a lot of businesses go bankrupt. But I do yes. think that there are those special people, and I think that most people think they are that special person, but they're not. Who can somewhat predict, at least, you know, what is really needed. But your innovation thing that I find different, because like you said, we think technology, but yours is not about technology. It's about customer experience, right?
It's about experiences. Yes. Yeah,
experiences, and again, that's an important thing. Is that the S is pointed out? Yes. Yeah, so tell us about that.
So in the context of that, if I were to just play with your example of Steve Jobs, I don't think the iPod was what Steve Jobs created. I think Steve Jobs created a different experience that reset the expectation on how to interact with, listen, download, etc. your music. So I think it was an experience, and I think he sensed that was missing in the marketplace. But you're right. But customer experience nowadays has become, at least as far as I'm concerned, just a glorified version of customer service. So 10 years ago, everybody talked about customer service, great customer service, and then all of a sudden one day somebody waved a magic wand, and now we're talking about customer experience. But if you read about it, if you talk about it, if you interview leaders about it, it is still customer experience in the singular. And you dig down deep, and what they're saying is, if we give great customer service, the customers will have a great experience. It's passive. That's right. Totally passive. Right. It's not passive on the customer service end.
No.
But it's passive on the customer experience end. Well, let me go back to where we started. The best of the best already have that figured out. So then the innovation advantage, in other words, the way that you can innovate to differentiate from yourself from your competition, is the deliberate design of innovative experiences that drive results. So in our work, Doug, just to be clear, we don't go in and start to do idea generation sessions. We go into a culture, and the first thing we want to know is, what are you trying to accomplish? Right. What are your strategic imperatives for the next quarter, year, or horizon, whatever it happens to be? And what's not going the way that you want it to go? Where are the holes in the cheese? And then those experiences are created to drive the mindsets the business needs to get the behaviors that drive the results that the business wants. So you're creating an experience that makes people think and feel differently, which drives their behavior, and therefore the business can get the results that they want, just like Red Tomato Pizza.
And that's part of your 5S solution, is that correct? So
yes.
walk us through the 5S.
So let's imagine, Doug, that you and I are sitting brainstorming, and you're a brilliant guy, which you are, and you come up with a great idea. All that you and I have at that moment is the fact that you're brilliant, and it sounds like a really good idea to us.
Right.
Then we could go out, we could go to our customers with that idea, we could go to our really smart colleagues with the idea, but we still will have nothing more than a glorified gut feeling.
Right.
What the 5S's does, and here they are, I'll share them with everybody: surprising, strategic, seductive, sustainable, and simple. Surprising, strategic, seductive, sustainable, and simple. So this is a matrix, if you want to look at it that way, Doug, not only for creating ideas, but to validate that they actually are innovative, they actually do create value-based change that resets expectation, and accelerating those ideas to market. So let me give you an example. Let's go back to Red Tomato Pizza.
Yeah.
If Red Tomato Pizza had come to me with that idea, we would have run it through the 5S's. In fact, we would have used the 5S's before. They came up with it, but we would run it through the 5S's. Each one of those S's is worth 5 points.
Right.
Well, I don't want to get too much into the tactics, but the reality is that if your idea does not have all of those 5 S's, there is a very good chance that it will fail. So we go into organizations, for example, and we go, what didn't work? And we say, we had this great idea. And I'll say, so share the idea with me. And let's run it through the 5 S's. And 9 times out of 10, we can tell them exactly where the hole in their cheese was. Exactly where they missed on the idea. And remember, I'm not just talking about products and services. I'm talking about marketing and sales and delivery methods as well. So all of these ideas that people come up with, and they go, we don't understand. It was such, here in our gut, it was such a great idea. The customer said it was a great idea. Money down the drain. So it's really a very simple matrix to say, how do we create the idea and how do we measure the probability of return on investment?
So, surprising. So, whoa, I never thought of that.
Yes, so that's the expectations part, right?
Right, yeah, no, okay. Did you say, was it?
Strategic.
Strategic. So
Yes.
Tell us what you mean by strategic in there
Yes.
for our listeners, because that is, again, one of those nebulous words.
Yeah. And I've had the 5S's probably for 15 years now, and I keep flip-flopping on which one should go first. But the reality is you need to get your audience's attention.
Of course.
Strategic means, and this is from the point of view of the business, it means knowing exactly what you want your customer to think, feel, and do next. So many people are creating these experiences for something that's going to happen 6, 8, 9 months down the road. Strategic is all about, how do I create the mindset that drives the behavior that I need in this moment to drive my results? Wow. So a lot of your listeners may remember the Volkswagen piano stairs. You heard about that? They turned the stairs in a subway station into a giant piano. Yeah. And 66% more people took the stairs. Yeah. Right? They had these garbage cans that made sounds like a volcano when you put it. 43% more garbage got into the garbage can because it was strategically focused on that moment in time and what behavior they wanted to create at that moment in time. That's strategic.
Brilliant. So it's designing to get a specific thought, feeling, behavior in this moment. In this moment. Yeah, that is. Own this moment. That's powerful and bloody tricky because you know. It is.
Yes.
Because especially in this world where we've got the attention span that is smaller than goldfish, where we are on to the next thing, everybody's multitasking about everything, to actually grab attention and create a behavior. Grabbing attention, possible. Grabbing attention, changing a thought, feeling, and a behavior, wow.
In a flash.
That's amazing.
I use the video of the Volkswagen stairs in my presentation.
I'm
and
sure.
You see people, I call it the zook. You see people head to the stairs, notice the piano stairs, and do a zook. You see them go this way and then go this way. In the garbage can one, you see them walk by and then stop because they can hear the sound. People are running around asking other people for their garbage to put in the can. So it is possible to do. But I just want to make sure that right after strategic comes seductive.
Right.
Which means now that I know what I want you to do, I need to give you a reason to do it. And this is the value piece of. This is where value comes in. If we are not creating what the customer needs in value and resetting that expectation of value, then no matter how surprising and how strategic, they will not play. They will not play. They will not climb those stairs. They will not put the garbage in the can, and they will not hit that button for the pizza.
So what is the seduction piece? What are we looking for there?
We're looking for something that is probably an emotion. So one of my favorite examples is a homeless guy sitting in the street. He's got this cardboard in front of him, and have you seen this one? I bet you can't hit me with quarters, right? So I use that example because our default mindset for most of us, we already have one. Doesn't matter whether you usually walk by those folks, give them money, sit down and chat, doesn't matter. You have a default mindset.
Sure.
But this guy just blew all of those default mindsets out of the water. So the seductive part is, it's fun.
Right.
It's challenging. He's removed the guilt. And even if I'm someone who never gives money to the, I'm not, but even if I was someone who never gives money to the homeless on principle, he's working for it. He just threw out any rule that I might have, spoke to my head, spoke to my heart, and has influenced my behavior. That's seductive.
Yeah, and so part of the seduction, again, is part of what you were saying before, about is shifting from the normal. You know, I remember sitting on Robson Street in Vancouver at the Cactus Club on the outside in the summertime.
Right.
Homeless people would come by and they would always, hey, you got a quarter, and it was difficult to sit out there for a while because people were always bugging you for a quarter. And we were sitting out there one night having a drink and a little snack, and some guy came by and he says, excuse me, and I said, yep, and he said, can you help me out? I only need $235.67, and it was like so specific and so random and such a large amount that, everybody, not just me, everybody howled laughing, and he had a big smile as he said it. So he didn't say it like, oh my God, I need this for the operation. Yeah. He said it with a big smile. Clearly he was goofing off, but you know what? Every one of us put our hand in our pocket because it was that surprise piece, back to your first piece, right? So that part of the seduction is in the surprise too, right?
Yes,
so I
absolutely.
can see why these five are tied together.
And there's so much in what you just said. So the difference between your guy, he had the surprise factor, and everybody did reach in their pocket, so that's awesome. The guy with the sign said, I bet you can't hit me with quarters. That's how strategic he was.
Oh, yeah.
Because he told you exactly what he wanted you to do.
Yes.
Now, the seduction piece goes back to this value and the great point that you brought up earlier about how do we find out what our customers value. And I said we ask them.
Right.
And what I mean by that is not what do they value in the terms of the offers, our offerings. I mean, what do they value?
Yes.
What do they value in their business? What does their business stand for? What do their customers' business? I'm really talking about value and values.
Yes.
And if you can find out what those are, you can masterfully craft these experiences to speak to the minds and hearts of your customers in a way that influences their behavior.
So before we go on to the fourth and fifth, I want to come back to that because I want to say that even in my work, I've experienced that most people don't actually know, not cognitively at least, don't know their value system. They don't know what they really value. They know what they value in the moment. To quote Covey, they're focused on the emergent rather than the truth.
Yes.
So when you're trying to elicit the value system of somebody, very oftentimes they don't really know it. They'll come up with what they think they should value versus what they actually value. How do you get around that in this ask situation?
That's a great question, and I think we all of us who serve our clients need to become master questioners.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
I like to say that if you ask the questions that your customers expect, you'll get the answers you want. Mm-hmm. If you ask the questions that they don't expect, you'll get the answers that you need. And so I don't have a script. What I do is I ask a question. You're obviously an expert at this because you interview people. Ask a question based on that response. I'm not even sure that I ever actually use the word value. It's not like I come up and I go, I'd like to talk to you about what you value.
No.
So what's going on in your business?
Mm-hmm.
How do you feel about that? First of all, practically nobody has ever asked them how they feel about what's going on in their business, yeah. Right? What's keeping you up at night? What impact is what's going on in your business having on your family? What impact is what's going on in your business having on your customers' lives? What do you think your customers are all about? What do you think keeps them up at night? But these aren't my prepared questions. These are things that are coming from a conversation. And when we work with our customers on it, we call it digging deep.
Yes.
Everything they say, I mean, you're the master. Everything they say, you want to go one level deeper. The trick is when customers say something nice about us, we want to stop. And
let's just bask in this glory for a moment.
Bask in this little glory. Why do you do business with that? Oh, because you're brilliant and yada, yada, yada. Oh, okay, isn't that wonderful? I'm going to stop now. But the follow-up question should be, well, thank you very much, but what difference did that make to you? Mm-hmm. How does that show up in your business? How does that show up in your life? So I think it's about getting comfortable about asking these different questions and going as deep as you possibly can. We've done 2 or 3 where we've invited a bunch of clients into our home in our living room and just started the day by going, what do we need to know about how we do business? And then the trick is just shutting up while they answer and then asking that one more question that drives you down to the golden nugget. And you'll know it. Yeah. You'll know it when you hit it. When you get that golden nugget, you will know.
Yeah. Again, I think that people are often uncomfortable asking the questions they need to ask. And as you said, I think we stop when we get the answer that we like.
Yes, that we like.
As opposed to saying, yeah, well, let's go a little bit deeper. And when you do that, what you get from that is it's, as you said, it's golden. It's the gems you actually need, even though sometimes those gems will sting.
Yes.
Like, they're a bit of a slap because it's like, I've asked, where am I failing you in what it is that I do? And that's like, the people are nice and they want to say, oh, it's great.
Yeah.
I know it is. I do everything I can to make sure it is great. But if I was not at 100% in somewhere, if I was failing you in some way, shape, or form, where would it be? And I want to tell you, those of you listening right now and watching, I want you to know where I learned this. I learned this in being a therapist, which is what I was originally trained as, and working with couples who, like you were just saying before, were good.
Yeah.
Because I got really sick of working with couples who were in shitty marriages. And I was like, I'm so sick of this. I want to work with couples who are in good marriages who want to make them better. Right? And that was it. And that's what I do with leaders. I don't want to work with leaders who are crap. I want to work with leaders who are good and want to be better, like you're doing with your stuff. And it's that same thing. And so I would say to my wife, how can I be a better husband? Sure, you're great. Yeah, thank you, love. I appreciate that. And I'm glad that you see that. But how can I be better? And my wife, she's kind and she's generous and she's caring, but she has an answer.
Yes.
She has an answer. And when and does it sometimes sting? Yes. Do I wish that I got a score of 100 out of 100 every single time? Absolutely. But if I don't do that, my game's going down in my marriage. And I don't want my game in my marriage to ever go down. I want it to keep going up. And that 100 is always going to be another level. And I need to celebrate it, of course, but I also need to lift it up. And it's the same for us in business, in leadership, and in innovation. That's what I'm loving about what you're saying here.
I love what you just said, because most people think that if they keep doing what they're doing, they plateau. No. If you keep doing what you're doing, you lose.
Yes.
You keep doing what you're doing, you actually lose, because every day it's more and more difficult to keep that plateau. Yeah. So all of that better stuff just keeps you here. You're working real hard to stay here. And now if you want to do this, that's when you need to think about how you're going to not only be better, but be different.
Yeah, that's really
in
cool.
How you do things.
So let's go to the fourth of the 5 S's.
It's the least sexy. It's sustainable. And the obvious definition of it is, do I have the resources? Can I sustain this idea? But that's actually not, it's part of it, but that's not really what we need. Mm-hmm. Most of us, I'm not going to point any fingers, probably have something in our fridge that has been there so long, it's growing aliens, and its best buy date is long gone.
Right.
And ideas are like that.
Mm-hmm.
Companies, organizations, brands come up with this great idea, and then they want to hold on to it forever. Mm-hmm. This is great. We're just going to keep doing it and doing it and doing it. But most of your listeners, I'm sure, would know about the S-curve. And I always like to say that sustainable is where the 5 S's meets the S-curve. Mm. By the time your idea is on that curve, the one that's so brilliant, you already need to know what's next.
Right.
So it's this whole idea. It's the concept of, this is our idea. What is its natural expiry date? Before you launch the idea, the experience, whatever it is, you need to know when it's supposed to die.
Wow, that right there, that's a bit of a mind blower for most people.
It is.
Because using your word from before, from the previous one, which is, I think we're very seduced by our own genius.
Yes.
We're seduced by our own brilliant ideas. And looking at it with an expiry date is pretty amazing. I mean, even if you think about technology, the things that are like mind-blowing, like the iPod. Who has an iPod now? I don't know anybody with an iPod, right? You just don't have one. It had an expiry date. And it's actually coming into a brand new idea and saying, what is the expiry date on this genius innovation? That's pretty cool.
And it's even more mind-blowing when you think of the fact that I'm not just talking about products and services and technology.
No.
I'm talking predominantly about experiences that are created and how you value or how you evaluate how often your target market is going to be exposed to that experience before it is no longer surprising, it is no longer strategic, and it is no longer seductive. And the trick is to get out of the game before that happens. Because once the unexpected is expected, it's already too late. You're already sinking in the quicksand.
Yeah, well, I mean, I immediately go to Game of Thrones.
Yes.
The first TV series to kill off the lead character at the end of the first season. It was like, you can't kill him.
Yeah.
What are you talking about? You can't kill him. And because of the way we were conditioned, this must be the end of the show, and the show got better, and then they did it with Homeland, and so now it's becoming expected that you're going to kill off the main character at some point, and I'm interested to now, because now it totally aligns with what you're saying. I'm like, oh, I can see this now, yeah.
I don't know if you remember The Sopranos.
Yep.
But the end of that series is famous until that date because it never ended. They're sitting in the coffee shop. We hear the door open because we hear the bell.
Right.
And they leave you hanging.
Right.
That's the only way to go out.
Right.
Is to leave people hanging.
Leave people hanging. So that interesting idea of sustainable, which doesn't sound sexy, but it's so innovative because it's looking at it from expiry date.
Yes. And the other thing to keep in mind about expiry date is there are some experiences that are truly, truly easy for your competition to copy. And there are others that are not so easy. So part of sustainable also is not just how often will your target audience be exposed to it, but how quickly can your competition catch up? Because it could be a great idea you want in and out because you know that your competition is going to be right behind you or the industry is going to be right behind you trying to copy, and you already want to be setting the new perception of value for your customers.
Yeah, that's a really cool, that's very, okay. Number 5, give it to us.
This is my favorite. It's simple. Number 5 is simple, and it is really keep it simple. Most of the work that we do with our clients, they come up with these wonderful initiatives, and when we get to the evaluation on simple, like they've scored a 0, and we need to take things out. We're going to take out this. Every one of these little extra steps you put in is an exit ramp for your customers. Again, think of the piano stairs. Took no time to understand what you were supposed to do here. You didn't need like a set of instructions that you had to pull out and go, what am I actually? So it's all about simplifying it and making it obvious. Now, it needs to be simple for the person creating the experience as well. And by that, simple is relative, right? Sure. Depending on what business you're in. We also talk in this phase a lot about investment versus impact. So if you think about quadrants, right, you want to measure out your high investment, high impact, or even better, low investment, high impact. So that's what we're talking about in simple. Keep it simple so you can get in, get out, on to the next thing.
So when somebody comes to you, and saying, okay, we need a competitive advantage, which obviously is what they're coming to you for.
Absolutely.
We need a competitive advantage. Do they usually show up with an idea of what or do you help them to initiate or find something, elicit some kind of idea?
Yes, most of our clients come to us because they're in highly commoditized industries, so it's not even so much that they're looking for an idea. They're losing market share, they've got stagnant growth, or they're not growing as quickly as they would like, and they think one of two things is the answer: innovation or customer experience. So they come through both doors to us. It's not until they get in the door that we start to talk about the fact that we're going to put these two together. Why not? We're going to throw your touch point management right in there in the mix. And then we're going to understand what's wrong with your business, and then, or good or not working the way you'd like with your business. And then we're going to sit down and we're going to come up with a lot of ideas. Right. Sometimes this is a process. I mean, obviously I go out, I speak one day, but most of our work is much longer term. And so we're actually deliberately designing experiences that meet one specific objective. And then maybe another group is working on designing experiences for something else. And then as those experiences develop, then we narrow them down, put them through the 5 S's until we come down to the ones that are going to be implemented. It's very rare that somebody comes to us with an idea. More often than not, they come to us with a problem.
Okay. So where do you believe that leaders struggle most in trying to innovate?
Well, we touched on one earlier, which was, what is innovation?
Of course, right.
And obviously I'm a big fan of our definition, but at least have one. Have one, and make sure not just that it's on the wall somewhere, but that everybody knows what that looks like.
Right. Really
what it is. And in that piece should be the distinction between improvement and innovation. Because most organizations are talking about innovation, but what they're actually doing is incremental improvement or even incremental innovation, but they're not truly changing up the game. So clarity about the definition and the language would be one thing. The next thing they struggle with is process. A lot of people out there talking about it, not a lot of people who can give them a simple process, because some of this stuff, could take 10 years to do. I think the third thing they struggle with is courage. And that's the most important thing.
Tell us about that.
Yeah, we did, for example, last spring, we did a living innovation lab for a huge construction company. They, in the process, came up with probably 5 or 6 hugely viable ideas. So I'm talking, one of the ideas had a $750,000 to $1 million budget, but the possible return on investment was $30 to $32 million every time they implemented the idea.
Wow, that's decent.
That's
a decent ROI.
Return on investment. And then what happened? If you had to guess.
Well, they didn't have the courage to follow it through.
Didn't have the courage to follow it through. Didn't have the courage. So I travel with a bright red ladder that is a symbol of perspective. So better happens at the bottom, different happens at the top. What happens sometimes is organizations have the courage, leaders have the courage to climb to the top of the ladder, but then they're busy looking down. They're up at the top of the ladder. They've started to think about how they can be strategically different, but instead of keeping looking out on the horizon, you know how a tightrope walker never looks down, right? They never look down. But a lot of leaders, once they're up there, are so terrified by what they've come up with, even though with the 5S solution, they can actually manage risk, that now what they're doing is they're looking down. They're trying to cover their bases, and the ideas don't get implemented. So that is hugely an issue of courage. And if I could just quickly give the opposite example, interviewing the CEO of a large insurance company out of the States, here's what this gentleman did. This is how much courage he had. He wanted an idea that would be ready to go to market in 9 months. He had 6 of his top people resign their jobs. They had to resign their positions. They were put in a special task force for 6 months.
Wow.
And they were given 6 months to come up with this, propose it, market, prototype. Now that's courage. 6 of his top people, and leading up to it, each of those people had to train somebody as if they weren't coming back to their post.
Right.
Now that, you hear the difference between, those are 2 very different stories.
Yeah. We have a term for that. I think it's called balls.
Balls.
Giant balls.
I'll go with that.
I mean, of course, right? I mean, but and you're absolutely right. I mean, even the idea of doing something different, for even to consider it, is courageous for many companies, because as you were saying at the beginning, I think a lot of people look at, well, this has worked, and I think that's the death rattle. This has worked. It's the death rattle. Because it's worked does not mean it will, and it's probably a path to failure in an innovative world.
Absolutely, and innovation is not safe.
No.
It's not safe.
No, not
you
safe
can make
at
it safer, but it's not safe.
Right.
It's messy and it's not safe.
So and we're talking about courage, and we're talking about all these changes and innovations, but tell us about you. I mean, let's shift it back on you for a minute. What is something that you used to do, because we've all grown and learned as we've gone along the way. So what's something that you used to do that you probably thought was very good, and you probably thought was a path to success, that now, at this point in time, you look back and go, what, give your head a shake, girl. What was I doing? Like, what was it you were doing that just wasn't working, and it took you a long time to realize it, even though you thought it was good at the time?
I love this question, and I have never been asked this question, which is one of the reasons I love it. I was always the first one to speak up. So in an idea session, I was always the first one to speak up. Client asked a question. I mean, in school, I was the first one to put up my hand, because I thought that meant that I knew my stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Took me a long time to learn to listen, and to probably be the last person to speak up, which goes back to all those questions that we were talking about earlier. It took me a long time to learn that I actually demonstrate more value. In fact, I do more to demonstrate and shift my customers' perception of value by not talking so much than I do when I used to feel like I had the solution. And I just want to be clear, I'm not talking about the obvious stuff that we all know. You're supposed to let your clients talk. I'm really just talking about those deeper questions and the power of silence. You ask a client a question, they answer it, and you don't say anything. You sit, and there's a silence, and it makes everybody uncomfortable, but they will fill it, and they will fill it with those golden nuggets. So basically, I learned to keep my mouth shut.
That is fabulous. That is really fabulous. I believe, it's one of my beliefs, I believe that the most successful people in the world are obsessed. Mm-hmm. We have a lot of negative connotations around obsession, and that's fair, because some people are very negatively obsessed. But my experience is that in the 30 plus years of doing this, the people I've met who are outstanding are obsessed with something that has made them the best at what they do. What are you obsessed with?
I don't mean this to sound trite, but I truly am obsessed with big ideas. There's nothing can get me more passionate. Mm-hmm. I read voraciously, as I'm sure you do. I'm constantly looking at what's going on in the marketplace. And when I see something that's brilliant and is working, I'm excited because it's working and it probably meets the 5 S's. And there's one more example. I get excited if something's not working because I can probably figure out where the hole is, and that makes me excited. But if I move that needle a little further and I'm really honest, what I'm really excited about is helping people connect with the ideas that are inside of them. Because we all have them. Right. So, if you want me jumping up and is just say something in one of our sessions or in a conversation that you never would have thought of if we hadn't been having the conversation, and I'm ready to raise a glass of champagne and woohoo, I'm ready, good to go. Good to go.
So let me ask you, when you look at the world of business and what's going on and where things are, what is it that scares you? What is it that might keep you up at night?
Lack of heart. Lack of heart. Big enterprises constantly looking at the bottom line and doing the things that make money sense as opposed to what makes humanity sense. And I strongly believe, and I think you had a guest on recently who talked about this. I believe you can be successful in business and have heart. I believe you can do what's right for yourself, what's right for your customers, and do what's right for the world. Yeah. And I come into this as much as this is all intellectual. I come into this from a place of service, and I don't mean to sound corny. But without my customers and without the opportunity for me to get into conversations with them and help them unleash all of this idea power that they've got inside of them to make a difference. Yes. I think if we're going to be different, we want to be different in a way that makes a difference.
Well, again, you're back to your piece around value that the customer sees as value. Because, right. I mean, I've done it myself. I've done stuff that I think, people are going to love this. And I can articulate the value of it. But the other person's like, yeah, but I don't care.
Yeah, I don't care.
I don't care. Oh, damn! I thought you were like me. No. So it's it's very important. If you could say one thing that you hope more than anything that the leaders listening, watching the show today, what's the most practical thing you would want them to take from this show and implement within the next 24 hours to 7 days? Say, okay, this is what I really want them to get. What would it be?
If it was something that we talked about in the show, I would just say the definition of innovation. If you can take that definition, take it back to your team, start sharing it, how does that show up in our lives? What does that look like? And asking those questions about the perception of value, that would be great. The thing that will make the most difference in their organization is the 5 S's. If they start to use those, and there is an article on the website and there's some other videos on it, but if you start to think about those 5 S's and how they help you create, validate ideas, you'll get more of them to market and everybody will be happier.
Yeah, I think those are absolutely brilliant, those 5 S's. And it's one of those things that when something is brilliant, it's very simple, but not.
But not.
Right? So, oh yeah, there's these 5 S's, here they are. Yeah, now go away and work on them. And
yes.
You're probably going to need some help on that. And that's a good idea. I mean, I think it's great. You've got the articles on them and people can go look at them and you can listen to this show and listen back. And I encourage our listeners and viewers to do that. But you're probably going to need some objectivity, as I often say to my clients. Listen, I'm pretty great, pretty brilliant at what I do. But I'll tell you something. When it comes to doing it for me, I'm not as good. And you know why? Because nobody is objective in a subjective reality. So we all need somebody else who has the expertise, who can sit back and say, listen, I'm not going to blow smoke up your skirt. And I'm also not going to slap you around for no reason. I'm going to be this voice that says to you, here's what it means. Oh. And so I think the 5 S's is fabulous. I highly encourage people to listen. Toni, it's been fabulous having you on here, girl. We've enjoyed it. It's been amazing.
Ton of fun.
Please tell our viewers and our listeners where they can find out more about you, about what it is you do, and tap into the resources that you offer.
Well, the website is www.toninewman.com. Toni with an I. Toni with an I, T-O-N-I, Newman.com. And you will find everything there. Our blog is divided up into watch it, read it, listen to it, download it. If you prefer to absorb your content in whatever way, it's all there. And you can go to the YouTube channel and those. But I would strongly suggest that people start with the website. And then we have a great Facebook group called Influential Innovators. And it is a safe place where people go and share ideas without any worry that someone's going to steal it or take it. So those would be the places to go.
Fabulous. Thank you. By the way, I do recommend that you do go to Toni's website. Again, www.toninewman.com. I've been there. There's tons of great resources, all kinds of great resources you can tap into. And go do that. And again, I always encourage you to not just listen to this show, because I know we listen to podcasts in the background, but listen, stop, take notes. And the second time you listen, I promise you will get far more. And I encourage you to do the very thing that Toni said over the next 24 hours to 7 days, or 5 working days. Go to your team with this, and define innovation. It's going to be very powerful and it's going to be transformative for you. Toni, we really want to thank you for being on. Thank you so much. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Thank you for having me.
And I hope you'll stay with us to the very end. And I want to thank you, dear listener, dear viewer, for tuning in and for staying with us today on this show. It's been a real pleasure and honor. And I want to remind you that the research consistently shows that the biggest challenges facing even the most successful companies can be somewhat counterintuitive, in that the fast-growing companies often hit a point where they realize they're spending a fortune attracting, training, developing talent, only have them leaving them at an alarming rate. If you're sick of investing in the training and developing of your talent, only have them leave you before you've got your ROI, then come talk to us at fullmontyleadership.com, where we provide the essential leadership skills to rekindle and amplify the hidden loyalty assets inside of your organization by tapping into your purpose. fullmontyleadership.com, providing you with the concrete soft skills to get you and your organization to the top and keep you there. Why? Because you can't outsource authenticity. And remember to also get yourself over to the Matrix and get your Matrix self-assessment leadership self-assessment tool. It's free to you for being a listener or viewer. It's valued at $197. Just go to matrix.fullmontyleadership.com. Matrix like the movie, .fullmontyleadership.com. You do not need the www. Till next time, this is Dov Baron, Full Monty Leadership, saying, stay curious, my friend. Stay curious about how you can go not from better to better, but to real, genuine, value-based innovation. Till next time, Dov Baron, I'm out.